Tonight we are hosting Charles Femshang. He's a PhD student at the University of Strathclyde. He's doing his research in entrepreneurship at the Hunters Business School. So we will try to learn more about his journey to joining the University of Strathclyde and where he comes from. So Charles, thanks for your time and welcome.
Thank you, Joseph, and I really admire the work you're doing. So it's a privilege to be invited for your talk. I call this a talk show. By the way, I'm Charles Femshang Mwanze, and a Cameroonian by nationality. And prior to my PhD at Strathclyde, I schooled in the UK 3 years ago at the University of Reading, the Henley Business School, where I did a master's in entrepreneurship financing. So I was sponsored by the Commonwealth Commission, so I came under the Commonwealth Scholarship. And prior to that, I was also reserved on Chevening Scholarship, and I have been a reserve for 2 years before I decided to come in for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Before this scholarship experience, I have been selected under the, I don't know if you know the name, VLI Scholarship in Belgium. Yes, that was since 2010. And then I also had the ARES Scholarship, still in Belgium, for a master's in international economics and development. But by then I was busy with other things, business, and then I went to the Higher Teachers Training College in Cameroon, which is quite a highly competitive school. So I was faced with a dilemma to either come in for the scholarship or go to the Teachers Training College. So I decided to go in for the teachers training, and I graduated as an economics teacher. I've been an economics teacher for over 12 years. So that was where, people still ask a lot of questions. How could you switch from economics to entrepreneurship and a whole Commonwealth Scholarship? How could they have selected you being a teacher, whereas there are so many startups and entrepreneurs out there who apply are unable to get the scholarship? So that's the very, very, very interesting aspect about my scholarship journey.
So before we even begin to talk about your Commonwealth Scholarship that you did a while back, and now you are doing your PhD at the University of Strathclyde, I'm just looking at statistics here. An economist in London earns £42,000. Why did you choose to do a PhD instead of going to practice as an economist?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, many people always ask that. Well, for me, PhD, it depends on you as an individual. I decided to go in for a PhD for career enhancement, and economics sounds like general. I wanted to have a specialization, which is business, and we can term it entrepreneurship. So because I grew up with that, with parents that were involved in business, and I wanted to see other businesses thrive. So the only way to engage into that sector and not only succeeding as a business person but teaching others to succeed in businesses, I thought of entrepreneurship. And going in for a PhD was a way for me to get my voice heard in the academia sector, because I've been a teacher, as I said before. And entrepreneurship, if you look at it keenly, is being taught at higher educational level. It's very rare to hear that entrepreneurial courses were being taught at secondary school or high school, particularly in Africa. So majority of the youths that feel frustrated upon graduation are those that really could be aided with business ideas. And in doing this, I thought of going in for something in entrepreneurship. So that was it: career enhancement, gaining more knowledge, becoming more specialized. Yes, I think those are my push factors into PhD.
Have you ever tried entrepreneurship in your life besides the teaching aspect of it?
Yes, I've witnessed and I've tried. I said it before, I grew up in a home where my mom was a restaurant owner, so we used to work with her, with the cooking, the selling and everything, and we could see the profits. And with the way she sponsored us, my dad was a civil servant, and as a child, we thought our mom was richer than our dad. Yes, because every person within our community wanted to emulate her style, and those that succeeded could really testify of the importance of being engaged into business for livelihood. So as for me, I've tried several businesses. Like I'll call myself a serial entrepreneur. I just identify anything that is profitable out there and dive into it. Yes. So that's it.
So in your opinion, who is an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is a risk taker, because the word entrepreneurship means mobilizing other resources, from labor to finance to land to everything. I mean, for those that have a background knowledge in economics, we know the factors of production to be land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So for you to become an entrepreneur, you should have that leadership skill to be able to mobilize these resources. So one problem I identified since I got involved with entrepreneurship is many youths rather identify entrepreneurship as a gateway to run away from other responsibilities like being disciplined, or to apply in a kind of corporate organization, or they don't want to be controlled by their elders or their seniors, or they don't want to be disciplined, they want to self-manage their time. So they will say, okay, I want to do entrepreneur because I want to control my time, without knowing that those who actually succeed are extremely time conscious. You need to have time management skill, you need to be disciplined, you need to be a risk bearer, you need to be innovative. Yes, so those are the aspects about entrepreneurship. And some people will complain, we lack the capital to start. If not, I would have started. I would always tell them, no, entrepreneurship is about solving a problem. And if you can be able to identify a problem that has a unique value opportunity, and you can convince someone, there are just so many people out there with monies in their accounts laying and doing nothing, not being productive. They just need you to convince them that with this your money, it can produce this amount of profit, and telling them with experience and how you aim at making that money grow, then they will come for you.
So you are from Cameroon, and speaking of Cameroon and Africa as a whole, do you think entrepreneurs are properly funded, or what do you think is the funding perspective of the entrepreneurship in Africa?
Well, I wouldn't say entrepreneurship, because I'm coming from I'm looking at it from the lens of rural communities, like the poor, the underprivileged. I don't want to take it to those that have made it already. And when you look at statistics of entrepreneurs back in Africa, they don't even qualify to be entrepreneurs, because if you want to look at the definition of an SME, an entrepreneur, it means these are businesses that should have a particular amount of employees, an amount of capital, and when you look at it keenly, at the African perspective, majority of the entrepreneurs or SMEs we have there fall below these criteria. And that is why many operate in the pocket. They don't save monies in the bank. They have no transparency, no traceability, and it becomes very difficult to convince investors. So that is why over 80% of entrepreneurs back in Africa, the origin of capital is from the 3 F's: family, friends, and fools. Yes, because they're unable to convince business angels, investors, and financial institutions that require your business to be feasible and profitable.
Like, do you think entrepreneurs in Africa are getting enough funding?
No, they are not. Maybe very few. Why? Because the requirement is for you to have a kind of success story, a success history, and then your idea should be very innovative, like something rare and unique. And many people are having issues with drafting a business plan.
Yes.
They're having issues of guarantee. Yeah, because sometimes the investors want to see the guarantee of their profits, like of their investments. So there is that issue of transparency, of traceability, which is an impediment for access to finance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In case you're watching this podcast for the first time, my name is Omai. This is the Management Diary, and we get to host scholars and academics from different parts of the world. So today we are hosting Charles Femshang. He's a PhD candidate at the University of Strathclyde, and he's actually researching entrepreneurship. So before now we begin to talk about your PhD, let's first begin to talk about your journey getting into the University of Reading through the Commonwealth Scholarship. Is it the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship or is it the Commonwealth Scholarship?
The Commonwealth Scholarship.
What is the difference?
Yeah, the difference with the shared, you are being nominated by the university. Why the Commonwealth Masters, your nomination is from your home country or other international organizations that are being selected by the Commonwealth Commission Office. Yeah, they also have rigorous selection or nominating procedures as well. So I think that year I got the Commonwealth Masters and I was on a reserve for Commonwealth Masters in this University of Strathclyde, under the Department of Finance. And I was also on the reserve on University of Chester. Yes, I was on the reserve for about 3 universities that year, as well as the Chevening scholarship. So, what do you want to know more about?
So you've just mentioned you were on reserve for over, I'm counting like 3, 4, 5 scholarships.
Yes.
And some of them came out positive.
Yes.
Do you think you're any different than any other applicants?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, when it comes to scholarship application, they select the best, either in terms of your career objectives or your academic background or your ACEs or your performance during your undergrad. So there are just lots of criteria that it comes into play, and at the end of the day, if we want to compare, we see that everyone weighs equally. Yeah. You should be able to tell your story. Yes. Come to think of it, you have monies and there are about 500 kids out there, or let's not use the word kids because they're unable to tell their story, maybe 500 youths out there, and you want to sponsor them. You want to sponsor just about 5 out of 500. Will you be looking only at their economic background? No. You are going to look at other points like their background, their academic performance, the promise they give, like in the impact statements. So there are just so many things. Like I for one, when I was selected for the Commonwealth Master Scholarship to study entrepreneurship financing, I sold myself to the Commonwealth Commission by letting them know that I'm not a business owner, I'm a teacher. And what I realized in the field was I wasn't proud to see my students upon graduation coming back to me to still ask for help with job applications and many of those things. So I said, okay, as an economics teacher, what can I do? I started informally guiding them, but raise this amount of capital, you can start this, you can start that. And then I realized that the few that succeeded were able to have self-employment, self-reliance, and with time were able to employ other people in the society. And I mentioned that in my essay, that I know that this program is best for an entrepreneur or a startup a business person. But me coming from the point of a teacher, I think that giving me that opportunity, I will gain the knowledge that can be transmitted to students, of which more than 10 to 20 can succeed and employ this number of people. So they saw the multiplier effect and saw that, okay, this is something new. We've never selected a teacher under entrepreneurship. Let's give it a try. So it just depends on how you tell your story. It should be very coherent, convincingly, and do not go about giving a lot of objectives. I started just by saying my country suffers with graduates who are all over the street complaining, condemning, and blaming the government, and I want to solve this problem by helping them have business ideas that they can implement and become auto-employed and self-reliant. Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost convinced actually. If I was selecting you for a scholarship, you would have already been 70% to getting it.
Oh, thank you.
Now, do you think there's a difference between these different types of scholarships in terms of what goes into the application?
Yes, there is. We are still talking about the masters, right?
Yes.
Or do you want me to get into
No,
PhD as well?
Just
for the masters, yeah.
PhD later.
Yes, because already, like the Commonwealth shared scholarship, you see a department can receive over 1,000 applications, and they nominate just the best. Like after rating the applications, the very first candidate will be their nominee, and the second can be on reserve. It depends on the quota that was given to the university. So their selection criteria can be based on academic excellence and your essays and the way you sell the image of the university as well. Yeah, because they are the ones nominating you. They want to feel very important. Whereas with Commonwealth Masters, it is not being read by the university. It is read by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, meaning you need to pride those that are reading your essay, which is the Commonwealth body. And in that aspect, you need to go deep into the Commonwealth and study what they do in terms of local, national, and international impact. So you need to be able to target that. That is the Commonwealth Masters. And then you also talk about development impact, because even though they require a second-class upper or a first-class degree,
yes,
the way you highlight the impact and how you will contribute to it, and then also highlighting what they have done in the past, what they are doing, and what they intend to do, and the way you intend to contribute. With regards to the economic level of your country, I think you can convince them. And in that aspect, you see that you are not touching so much about the university because they are not the ones nominating you. You are talking a lot about the Commonwealth body itself. Yes, that is another one. Then for the Chevening, Chevening is all about career enhancement. You tend to realize that a lot of those prominent youths in country always get the Chevening. Why? Because Chevening is out there to get the stars and make them shine. Yes, so with Chevening, you must possess that leadership potential. You must have had traces or echoes of success stories and maybe other awards or something innovative. You must have been present in the media and people talking about you. So Chevening comes there to just crystallize and make you shine. So if people can understand those three distinctions, they will know that you can always get either of these. I, for one, my undergrad I didn't perform well during my undergraduate because I had lots of challenges. Yes, but in my essay, I mentioned that as you see from my undergrad, my performance was very poor because at this time, I was having these challenges. The challenges shouldn't be personal. You should identify maybe a challenge that affected almost half or three-quarters of the school entirely. As for me, I mentioned that I went to a uni where every module was taught in French, and being from the Anglophone or the English background, I had lots of challenges translating the notes and writing my essays. And I ended up with an average of 11 on 20, but I made them to understand that in my batch, those that were able to score 11 were amongst the top 5 best students in school. So just letting them know, they will know, oh, this student performed this way, it was poor, but he was amongst the best. So there is every way. That's why I always tell people, when you're applying for a scholarship, try to do a SWOT analysis of yourself. Try to understand the criteria, and then you do a SWOT analysis by bringing out your strength for that program and your weaknesses. I identified one of my weaknesses to be poor, or will I say poor, average academic background, and highlighted it in my essay, making them to understand why my performance was that way.
You have 2 master's degrees?
No, not 2. I have 3 master's degrees.
Okay. Now let's discuss about that. Why so many masters?
Where will I start from? Well, it's just one thing leading to another. Yes, because my economics degree, I went to Teachers Training College, and when you graduate, it's a diploma, which is equivalent to a master's in economics. So that was one. And when I started working, I was opportune to get a scholarship, to be awarded a scholarship from SIDA, the Swedish International Development Agency, to study in Tanzania, Trade Policy Institute. There I did a postgraduate in International Trade Facilitation and Development. That was a scholarship. And then upon return to my country, I had an opportunity to be appointed as the country manager for a Microsoft project, SME for Africa. So the project was all about entrepreneurship. The word SME, small and medium-sized enterprise for Africa. So that is where I started developing interest on entrepreneurship. I worked in the field, I met entrepreneurs, I met SME organizations, and I could understand the entire SME ecosystem. And that is where it made me to resonate with how the way I grew up in a home of where my mom was engaged in business. I could feel the pain of entrepreneurs in Africa. So I really picked passion in furthering knowledge in entrepreneurship. And one of the key challenges identified was access to finance. So that is how I managed to get a scholarship for entrepreneurship financing in the Henley Business School, University of Reading. So that was my another master's in entrepreneurship. Prior to that, I forgot. After my my program in Tanzania, while I was working as country manager, I was opportune to be awarded a scholarship from the African Union Inter-University Award for a master's in financial management and control. That was in Cameroon and other countries. So there I graduated with a distinction. I think those are some of the things that maybe even though my undergrad was poor in terms of performance, maybe when combined with the masters I did, that is what paved way for me to the Commonwealth Scholarship and the PhD now.
Now, looking at this journey in hindsight, is there a point you'd say, like, I think I should have dropped this masters and just done something else during this time? Or?
Yes, I remember when I was doing my Commonwealth Scholarship in Reading, I had so many students that approached me, and they were telling me, but why did you come for the masters again? And at one point myself, I almost regretted. I learned a little. Yes, I did learn a lot from entrepreneurship and approaches to access finance, but I thought it would have still been best for me to come in for the PhD. So that is one of the reasons why I couldn't hesitate upon completion of my master's to see how I can start a PhD.
Now let's go back to your PhD application.
Yeah.
Why Strathclyde?
I applied in other universities.
Mhm.
Yes, and sometimes you submit an application for several universities and you have a conversation with them. You try to connect with graduates or alumni from the school, and you see the way they have evolved in the field and what they learned during their program. Those are some of the things that made me believe that my choice was the right one.
You chose a subject on climate change and green finance.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
Did you choose the subject?
Yes,
or
I did.
Did
I
you
did.
find a project on that
No,
subject?
no, I chose the subject. Why? Because upon completion of my master's at Reading University, I went back to Africa to implement lessons learned. And I discovered that the the problem I identified prior to my master's did not end there. I realized that there was that lost, almost complete loss of confidence from financial institutions in granting funding or finances to small businesses. And I also realized while studying my master's at Reading that there were other opportunities there for SMEs to get access to finance if they could share the interests of the society, not just private interests like chasing profits, but if they were conscious of their environment, were conscious of for general interest, sustainability, not polluting the environment, being conscious of carbon emission. That is where I came to realize that, okay, there are several organizations out there that spend a lot of money to ensure environmental sustainability to be achieved in Africa. And some of these organizations are looking for businesses that share their vision or their objectives. Whereas, if you know you can't get access to a private institution or financial institution or a business or investor or business angels, then why not incorporate sustainable aspects in your business and pitch the idea to those that can fund you for free? In that way, you get access to finance where you can grow your business and solve the problem of not only you, that of the society, and even that of the organization funding you. So that is what pushed me to start thinking of, okay, let me see what this kind of finance I'm thinking about, where is it leading me to, before I discovered that there is something also called green finance. Green finance is all about finance that is targeting any business or project that is environmentally conscious. Yes. So that is how I started nurturing my ideas of a PhD in entrepreneurship with specialization on green finance for SMEs.
So, in your own words, what do you term as a sustainable business?
Yes, a sustainable business is any business that is conscious of the environment, not for environmental degradation, something that can make the that is aware of pollution, of exhaustion. For example, if you're in the agri sector or you're felling down trees, you shouldn't fell all the trees without planting again. If you're using a kind of material for production, it should be something that can be recycled so that the source of raw material shouldn't get extinct. It should be sustainable. So when we talk of sustainable business is when your resources used in the business is sustainable or prolonged without getting extinct.
So would you please tell me, as if I'm a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
do I go about applying for a PhD? Based on your experience.
Yeah,
and of course, we are assuming this is a funded PhD.
Yes, it is. Okay, so it is the Global Research Scholarship offered by the Scottish government, so it was very competitive. Luckily, I got it just like the others. All right, so one of my strategy is you don't just go about applying for any PhD. You need to browse and use some keywords to identify what suits you. That it helps you to narrow down your search into the fields that are related to your background. And when you get that, you check on the eligibility, because I've seen people that just go about writing essays, then upon application they realize they are not even eligible to apply. Maybe their country is not eligible, or their grade and many things. So you check on eligibility, and then you check on the university website and try to read and find out those that are involved. Is it, for example, I knew of someone applying for a PhD in sustainability. Before he realized it was it was rather in the business department and not in the science department. So you should be able to identify the department or faculty, and then you try to build your proposal, your CV, and link up with one of the professors concerned. You just try to link up and connect, and you can't connect without building your LinkedIn profile, because that is a gateway for you to market yourself for free. So when you connect with such, after going through their profile, you try to talk about them to them. You know, it's always beautiful to hear somebody talking to you about yourself. Like, I saw that you achieved this, you are working on this project, you wrote this book, or you were presented in this conference. The person picks interest in what you're trying to say, and that is where you have the opportunity to leverage your past skills and academic qualifications, and even talk about your PhD proposal. Sometimes they may not even pay interest in you, but when you apply, you could mention that I have spoken with this professor to be my potential supervisor, because when it comes to applications, the PhD applications, it goes to the admission body, and they are you give them a lot of tasks to start asking professors around, we have this proposal, can you help supervise this student? And most at times, those that apply without having a prior communication with a professor involved in that project end up having a delayed response or a negative response. Not negative because you are not qualified, but because they don't know who to give the application to. Most of the supervisors have a lot of candidates, so they'll just reject without even reading your proposal. Whereas if you had this prior discussion with a supervisor, he will be contacted to say, this candidate mentioned your name to be his or her potential supervisors, and in that way, based on the communications you've had, then the person might say, okay, give the person an admission. I think that is one of the secrets that people go about having PhD admissions, and it's not something bad. It's just all about creating a good network.
So to close on this conversation, is there anything you could have done differently?
Aside doing a PhD?
No, during your application and now as a student.
Okay. Done differently. I'm already doing the PhD. So you mean during the application process? I don't think there is any other thing, because I just got what I requested.
That was Charles Femshang. He's a second-year PhD at the University of Strathclyde. He's doing his PhD in entrepreneurship. Until the next episode, I'll see you again. Bye-bye.